Welcome, everyone. I'm Carol Lorie, host of the Her Health and Spirit podcast and upcoming summit. And today we're lucky enough to have with us Mira Dessy, the ingredient guru, who's a holistic nutritionist, a popular public speaker, and the author of The Pantry Principle, How to Read the Label and Understand What's Really in Your Food. She's a member of the National Association of Nutritional Professionals, the Society of Nutrition Education and Behavior, and the American Holistic Health Association. She speaks frequently on how to navigate the grocery store's mammoth packaged food stock, to decipher confusing food labels, to understand the relationship of food additives to poor health, and how to find real food. She believes it's not just what you eat, but what's in what you eat. Her motto is, eat well to be well. Welcome, Mira.
Hi, Carol. Thanks so much for having me on.
It's wonderful to have you here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I always love talking with you.
Thank you. One thing that's become increasingly important to me as a practitioner is to help people see the inroads between traditional Western medicine and other healing genres, to help them understand that healing is more than a pill in a bottle. Can you talk about this for a minute with our audience?
Absolutely. So I truly believe that we should start with food first, supplements second, and then medication if necessary. Mm-hmm. When we start with medication, the problem is we're frequently masking symptoms. And unfortunately, while that can be helpful, it doesn't get at the why of what is causing whatever is going on. We're not drilling down to the root. When we change the diet and begin to nurture and nourish our body so that it can have optimal nutrition, we then pave the way for optimal wellness. And I think part of the challenge is many of us grow up with several food myths that we just accept without really questioning them. One is a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. You know, if you want to lose weight or whatever, you just eat less and exercise more. And I'm going to sit here and tell you that an apple has about 100 calories in it. 10 peanut M&Ms has about 100 calories. There's a huge nutritional difference between an apple and 10 peanut M&Ms.
Yeah.
So no, a calorie is not equal to another calorie.
Right.
You know, the other thing that happens is we are not taught how to appreciate the impact that our food has on our body. We see eating simply as something we have to do. And so when we stop to look at, you know, for example, carrageenan is an ingredient that's frequently added to a lot of dairy foods or to frozen confections or things like that. It's an emulsifier. It's a thickener. It provides mouthfeel. It also happens to be highly inflammatory. It's a red seaweed that can cause gut inflammation. It's been shown in a laboratory setting to cause renal bumps. And so it's not a great food, but it's not a great ingredient. Pardon me, it's not a food, it's an ingredient. It's not a great ingredient, but it appears in our food. But we're not taught to evaluate what's in our food. You know, most people, when they go to the grocery store, they think everything that's in those four walls is food, and it really isn't.
No, that's for sure. And so that's a really important topic, I think, with your following around this, for women, around this topic of how do you figure out within the grocery store what is food and what isn't, and how can we shift women's thinking around this topic? I think that's an important aspect of healing for our audience.
You know, I tell people the single most important skill that you can develop to be an advocate for your own well-being and the well-being of those you love is to learn how to read the label. Because the vast majority of the information about what's in the food is on that label. I mean, there are some exceptions to that, and there's some fine-tuning that needs to be done, but the majority of what you need to know is on that label. And unfortunately, when we pick up a label, most of us look at it, we go, okay, how many calories, how much fat, if you're watching sodium, how much sodium, and then we put it back and decide from there. We let the manufacturers manipulate us with front of package labeling, with buzzwords and key phrases and colors and shapes and all of that kind of stuff to try and make their product more attractive. But we're not really evaluating, is this food? Is this something that is nourishing and healthy and delicious? Because just because it's nourishing doesn't mean it's not delicious. But we are not taught to evaluate what we're doing. And so the more you process something, the harder it gets for the body to actually be able to derive true nourishment out of it. You know, a good example is to go back to that apple that we were talking about. A whole apple is 100 calories, and it's delicious. It's crisp, sweet, juicy. It's got fiber in it, and it's got some really great nutrients in there. It's a wonderful food. When we break it down and we cook it into applesauce, all of a sudden some of the nutrition that's in there goes away because of the heat, or, you know, there's a lack of fiber because the fiber's softened by taking that into applesauce. And then if we take it one step further and we look at the label, I promise you the vast majority of applesauces at the grocery store have added sugar and in some cases high fructose corn syrup in them.
Yeah.
But apples are so sweet, we don't need that.
I always make my own applesauce, and I always have an apple with me in my pocketbook because you never know.
They're great.
You never know when you're going to have that hypoglycemic moment and you're going to be starving, and it's right there. It's a ready-to-eat, delicious, healthy food.
I've even told people if you're out and you're hungry and you need something, there is nothing wrong with going to the grocery store and buying a single apple.
Right.
I mean, do that rather than going to a drive-through, or, you know, go get yourself something that is healthy and perhaps not as convenient, but definitely going to be much healthier because it's not going to have all of the additives and other things like that.
Right. How do you see women's health and spirit or spirituality working together and influencing each other?
You know, it's interesting because I think when we're younger, we tend to operate more on autopilot. For whatever reason, as we get older, as we take on the responsibilities of being an adult, and that's in terms of self-care, and then whether we have family members that we need to take care of or not in either generational direction, as we mature into those roles and become more of a caregiver, I think it causes us to really stop operating so much on autopilot because we're stepping into that role of provider and realizing that we need to nurture and nourish and love those we're providing for, including ourselves. And so that in and of itself becomes almost a spiritual exercise. There's something truly wonderful about making a delicious meal to feed yourself or your family and to really think about what goes into it. I mean, anybody can grab a box and rip it open and throw it in the microwave oven. But I promise you it's not going to have the nutrition and the nutrients and the care that goes into it. But and there are ways, by the way, to make meals very quickly, very delicious and healthy without investing 2 hours in trying to become Julia Child.
I know you're an expert at that. You have all these great Facebook posts where you cook all these meals with your friends and you put them in the freezer, and it's wonderful.
Well, and that's part of what I love to do because I really want to show people real food does not have to be difficult. And so I think as we begin to look at how we nourish ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, how we take care of those around us, it becomes a whole person exercise because there's a mind shift that goes along with it. There is an internal spiritual shift that goes along with that. And then, of course, there's also the physical aspects of what that means for you So I think we step into that identity and that beautiful whole person state of being.
And I think when you're eating healthy food, there is a difference in the energetic and the biochemical process going on in your body, and it's much easier to stay in a more positive mindset than if you're eating processed food or going through the drive-in, which has chemicals and it's heavy and it doesn't nurture or nourish you on any level. I think that's a very important part of what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, let's not forget that a significant number of the ingredients that are added to foods impact our neurotransmitter status. So artificial colors, for example, are made out of petroleum-based products, and they have a very significant impact. They cause anxiety, they can increase inattentive behaviors, they can have an impact even for people who don't have some sort of neurobiological issue such as ADD or whatever. Those petrochemicals can still affect your brain, and many of MSG is neurotoxic and causes migraines and other things like that. So we really, when we stop eating those, we're feeding our brain in a way that allows us to function better, be healthier.
That's such an important quote and concept. And I think that everybody needs to really pay attention to that, of what you're talking about, and it will help them be on their path towards better shopping and better health and better eating very easily when you think about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a wonderful way to end our conversation together and our time together. And I'd like to thank everybody who's listening for joining us. And there's going to be a lot more wonderful interviews with other experts, as Mira is. And have a great day, everybody. And it's Carol Lorie signing off for now from her Health and Spirit Summit. More later. Bye.
Bye.